Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be working on some items for a vignette, and this table was part of the vignette that I needed to work on, and I've had this table a little while and decided that maybe if I add a stencil to it, it might give it more interest, and then if it doesn't work out and it doesn't sell, then I can always sand this off later, because this is just a rustic table that all I did was distress it and seal it. So I think adding this stencil to this will really help. And I'm not sure where this stencil came from. I think it was from Amazon, but a friend of mine gave it to me. So I love that it's so large, and I use it a lot. And also the bee theme seems to be really in right now. So I'm just giving this a couple of coats on this stencil, and I'm using this darker gray, and I'm just using an apple barrel paint here, and then this moss green. And I got this idea the other night when I couldn't sleep. I do that a lot. I lay there and think of thrift items. And I know as crafters, a lot of you guys probably do that as well. But I had seen this little vintage purse at a thrift store and had left it behind. But after I thought about it that night, I went back and got it. But I'm just giving this a good cleaning with some alcohol, because I find that alcohol gets rid of any residue that might keep paint from sticking. So I just go over this entire purse with some alcohol and then let that dry. The vignette in my store that needs some work is in my Shabby Chic, and I decorated that with Shabby Chic. So I thought this would go really well in that vignette. And sometimes little areas in my store sell down so much that I have to more or less just start over with them. Now I took this outside. That's why I didn't get footage of it. I just took it outside and put one coat of white spray paint on it. And I didn't concern myself that it wasn't exactly the white that I wanted. I'm actually using drop cloth on this one, but I just wanted to get a good base coat so that I knew my paint would stick to this, I guess it's vinyl. And I could have just sprayed a clear coat on it, but I thought if I went ahead and sprayed white on it, then it would be a good base coat, and then my white would cover in 1 to 2 coats, and it really did cover in one coat after this. So again, I'm just putting one coat of this drop cloth in Dixie Belle, and that's after I spray painted one coat of white. And now I'm using a transfer. And this is not a whole transfer. This is kind of the scraps left over from another transfer that I did. And so I'm just kind of finding places that I can just kind of add a little bit of this transfer. And you can use any transfer you want on this, depending on what color that you want in your vignette. I just kind of picked out colors from my scraps that would go with this vignette, and I'm going to be using gray, soft pink, and then kind of a mossy green. Now this is the only the second time that I'm using these transfers, and so I'm kind of learning them as I go. I'm deciding here to go ahead and use the rest of that and just let it continue on to the bottom of this little purse. But I'm really liking these. I'm trying to buy the ones that don't cost a lot because it's just really hard for me to spend on these when I only get one use out of them. So I do like them. I'm just going to be really careful to put them on items that I know that I can get more money from. So now I'm just going to find another little area in the transfer that will go with the colors that I'm using and just kind of cut around it. Again, I'm just using little scraps here. And then I'm going to use a stamp in the center of this purse, and this is part of the redesign by Prima IC Paris. That's the set that stamp is from. And I love how these little transfers look with this stamp. And then that's all that I'm going to put on the front of this. So I just draped a little, half of a doily. I didn't waste a whole doily, and just kind of draped it and glued it there and added a little cameo mold to the front of this. And now I'm just going to build my little floral arrangement. And I'm starting with some greenery because I like to start with the greenery to kind of base, to kind of add more of a base or backdrop to my flowers. And I'm just kind of using pieces that I've cut from picks. I'm not using any full picks here. I'm just using little pieces. And I like to keep pieces cut up so that I can build these little arrangements. But I think this is going to make a really cute little arrangement. And it's going to have a real shabby chic look to it. Sometimes I stay awake thinking about something that I want to create, and then when I actually do it, it's not what I see in my head at all. But this little piece turned out almost exactly like I saw it in my head, and I was really pleased with how this turned out. And I try not to use any floral that is pricey at all. If it's pricey at all, I wait till it goes on sale. But for the most part, I don't have any more than a few bucks in any of my picks. And then, like I said, I cut them up also. And here I'm just adding a little bit of the lamb's ear. I love lamb's ear. It softens up an arrangement, and it also, I like that little, I like the texture of it that it adds to my arrangements. And I get my lamb's ear at Walmart, and Walmart has really good prices on their florals. But I buy this lamb's ear more than any other floral. And then these little roses that I'm putting in here, I just got these at the Dollar Tree. And I think Dollar Tree has really pretty roses as long as you take off the greenery. I feel like the greenery is just very, very cheap looking. And but I always just take my greenery off my roses, and then I use them to fill in with other greenery. And I think these roses really, really set this off. And it really takes very little floral here. And I didn't show that I glued some of the green styrofoam inside this little purse before I started arranging. And one of the rectangular blocks was plenty because I just cut it in half and then just kind of put it down in that, spread it apart just a little bit so that it would cover the whole purse. And then I just started sticking these little items in. And now I'm just kind of taking some scraps and filling in where I feel like it needs a little more. And I just love how this turned out. I think the colors are perfect for it. I was kind of on the fence about whether or not to paint this purse or whether to leave it black, and I'm so glad that I painted it. Now, I thrifted this little tray, and I think I paid $2 for it, and it's just kind of a brown, and I thought about painting it a good, more of a soft color and doing some white wax on it, but I decided that I wanted to make this vignette look more old. And so I wanted some gold to go in it. But I don't like just gold. I want, if I'm going to use gold, I want it to be really antiqued. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just using some Apple Barrel Antique Gold color. And this is just a Apple Barrel craft paint. And I love their metallic craft paints. And I'm just going over this with the antique gold and when I let it dry. I'm not going to leave it like that. Even though this is antique gold, it doesn't look antique enough for me. So once it dries well, then I go over this with a brown antiquing wax. And that was just enough to make this look really old. And I'm so glad I just decided to do this to it instead of paint it, because for what I'm using this for, this is going to work so much better. And I just so happen to have two little decanters that fit perfectly into this tray. So I'm going to paint these decanters to go together as a set. And what I'm painting on these right now is the Slick Stick from Dixie Belle. And because they're glass, I'm afraid not to use something to help that paint stick. So that Slick Stick, I've been having really good luck with it. Even better luck if I have time to let it dry overnight. But this one, I didn't have time to let it dry overnight, and that's okay, because after I paint these jars or decanters, then I'm going to be doing a little bit of distressing on them anyway. So if I pull a little bit of paint off, then it's no big deal, because that's just going to add to the look that I'm going for. And now I've painted these decanters with a moss green, and that's a Waverly color. I say that I painted it with moss green, but I was out of it, so I mixed some of my colors from Dixie Belle until I got what I felt like was close to the moss green. And here I'm just showing you this scrapbook, or not scrapbook, this decoupage roll that I got from Amazon. And I'm just kind of trying to find some things in this paper that I can kind of cut out, because I want this decanter to look old, and I don't want it to look like it has decoupage paper on it. I want it to look more organic, and so I found something that I wanted to cut out, and what I'm going to do is just this wording here. I'm going to kind of tear around that and just place that. I'm going to do some layering, actually. So I start with some scrapbook paper, or not scrapbook paper, some tissue paper that I've used on some previous projects. And I got this tissue paper. It just has kind of a faint lettering on it, and I like to use it for background of when I'm layering my decoupage. And so all I'm going to do is just kind of tear out a strip to almost fit the front of this, or the sides of this decanter. And as you can see, I'm not doing any measuring here. I'm just kind of eyeballing, because I'm tearing it. I want it to really, really have that organic feel. I don't want any sharp cuts. And I'm just taking decoupage and just going to cover this bottle, just the middle of the sides, before I do any of my other decoupaging. And I think this layered look just really has a vintage look. And I'm not worrying about tearing it perfectly, because as I get to each side, I'll tear a little more where I need to. I'm just being careful not to tear too much. And I like using something very thin to decoupage with, so I wouldn't recommend any kind of scrapbook paper or anything that has more of a stiff. I wouldn't go any thinner actually than this tissue wrap. You could actually use napkins. That would work really well to just decoupage with one layer of a napkin. And while that was drying, I started working on this rounder decanter, and I missed the footage somehow of, I just took some of that one layer of a napkin there where I've got little shapes kind of torn up, and I took one of my larger script stencils, and put a little layer of that on the front of this little round decanter. And then after I did that, then I took that little lettering that I had torn from that decoupage paper roll and then layered it over the top of all that script. And now I'm just taking a thinner strip with some script and just layering that at the top, or not actually layering it, I'm just putting a little strip at the top, and I'm not wanting this to be straight, so I purposely made it slant a little bit because I think that just kind of adds to this look. And so now after I've let it dry good, then I'm going over it with a clear wax. And then after I use my clear wax, now I'm going over it with some brown wax. And I did the clear first because I didn't want it to take much. I just wanted to add some aging to it. And so I didn't want to ruin what I worked so hard on by putting that brown straight on. So that clear helps when you're unsure about your wax that you're using. Always use clear first because it's much easier to remove the colored wax when you first use the clear wax. And I'm doing that same method on this other decanter and just going over it with the clear wax and then back over it with the brown wax. And as I do that, it takes a little bit of the paint off, and that's good because I wanted to do some distressing on it. And I just loved how those turned out with that little tray. And now I'll just kind of take you through my vignette to show you the vignette, but also because I had some comments that I'm not showing my end results as much, and I want to give you more of an opportunity to see the finished product. I agree with the viewers that really was an issue for me, that I just kind of hurry through the pictures. So I want to take my time and show you the finished products. And this here is why I love that I left the antique gold and didn't try to put a color on that, because I just love how those little decanters look with that antique gold tray. And I just love how this little vignette turned out. I know I don't say it enough, guys, but I really, really appreciate you guys for watching, and I appreciate all your sweet comments. They just brighten my day. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. I hope you have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.